TripleXP. TripleXP.
Are you actually started?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you did that as a joke. When you said I was going to do a countdown, I didn't expect you to scream 3, 2, 1 and just press go.
Right, we're live, let's go, let's do it.
Or you're just going to have to cut this beginning bit out.
No, leave it in,
Right.
be fine.
Welcome to TripleXP. I'm Shane and this is Mike.
Hi everyone. We're a weekly news podcast. We cover everything video games, movies, whatever we want, basically. We go live every Monday. Well, we record over the weekend, but we're available every Monday, hitting your lovely eardrums with our opinions.
And that's not all. That's not all. Each week we will have a special guest. These will be members of the TripleX team who have helped us build this podcast, our website, and everything else that comes along with it. And every now and then we might have a bonus guest just to shake things up a little bit.
I really like. Sorry to interrupt, but I really like the TripleX team. It's so good.
TripleX team.
Yeah.
That is. I've not heard this yet.
I know.
I like it. It's just cracking. Yeah, I'm down with that. So anyway, sit back and let us flood your listening holes with our soothing voices.
Soothing mouth noises.
That's the one. So firstly, I mean, Mike, we should probably tell them who we are. Really?
Yeah. Shit. We've been wanting to do this for so fucking long, and it's finally happening, and I'm genuinely excited about.
I mean,
chatting shit about video games.
It's an odd one because we both have wanted to put a podcast together for longer than we've known each other. From the conversations that we've had, we both had this idea for several years now, and through a chance meeting a year ago, we suddenly we had this conversation. I'm pretty sure this was the first conversation we ever really had. Was I'd love to do a podcast. Yeah, me too.
It pretty much was, yeah.
And here we are, literally. And if I remember rightly, it's literally about a year later.
We did it, boys.
A year. We got there, finally.
We fucking did it.
So it'll take us an entire year to get to this first episode.
Exactly, yeah.
But, yeah.
I think like meeting on Twitch, and we were both like amateur streamers at the time, trying our best. And I think we just found out that we were just better at chatting shit than playing video games.
Yeah, I think, and this is something I've spoke about to other people recently, in that I think the podcast and the idea of being a podcast was always what I wanted to do, and the Twitch streaming was just trying to incorrectly fill that hole.
Yeah.
And I've realised that I don't really like streaming that much, to be honest. So I'm hoping that this works out a lot better.
Yeah. So I think, should we chat about what we've been playing?
Yeah. So do you want to go with what you've been playing first, Mike?
A little game called Rogue Company, which is the worst title for a game ever. It sounds like a mobile game, but it's a pretty solid. I say solid. I hate it, but I love it. It's a third-person shooter. It's kind of a mixture of like CS:GO, which you got like your buy-in rounds and your instant, one life, no respawns. Mixed with like a character shooter similar to like Siege or Overwatch. It's just like a nice mix of all these different games, and it just fills me with absolute rage. But when we do good, it's so satisfying. When you're like crushing a team and stuff, like any fucking shooter really, but it's just really good. I'm just enjoying it. It's a nice
So
little. Go on,
how does
sorry.
it play? Because I genuinely, and I don't know how I've done this, but I genuinely haven't actually seen any of Rogue Company. I've heard about it because I've heard you all talking about it, but I've not seen it. I've not played any. I'm very, very unaware of it. So with the gameplay, how does it play? Are we talking like Gears style third person? Are we talking Mass Effect style third person? Division? Like what? Where would it best fit
It's
if I was to compare it to
it's
another game?
it's not like a cover shooter, so you don't like stick to walls or anything like that.
Okay.
You're just kind of like free movement. So it's not really like any cover based shooter. Um, but you mainly just hip fire and like a bit like CS:GO where you'll only really aim in if you're like a sniper.
Right.
But yeah, you get sort of different characters and stuff, so they all have different abilities and things. So that changes the gameplay up a bit from round to round.
And am I
Um,
right in saying that it's not officially out yet, or it's like some sort of special access at the
well,
moment, or
it's
is it out fully now?
that's it. It's like you get your founders pack bullshit that you usually get with free to play games early on. Um, so I bit the bullet and bought into it. I spent about 15 quid, something like that. But it was worth the money, and I ended up getting the platinum on it because I played it pretty much every night, just a few rounds before bed, that kind of thing. It's just a nice little it's a nice little stopgap for the kind of the games that have been, I don't know, there's been lacking games lately, so I think
We're in that dry period, aren't we, at the
yeah, that's
moment?
it. Yeah, it's just that.
So I have to clarify, when you say you have been playing a few little games in the evenings and getting the platinum, do you mean you were carried, or did you actually do it yourself?
I mean, yeah, it was fully carried. You know me. We've got
100%
we've
carried.
got Breadstick Ninja, who's like our team strong
Strong
back.
back?
He is, yeah. He's well known. And he's kind of like the Stig. He's got like from Top Gear. He's kind of like got that mystios about him. Just like you've heard the name, but have you seen him in action? Like Rambo, or like he's just a ghost of a man.
What concerns me the most is I have seen him in action, and it feels like that you can give him any genre of game, and he just smashes it.
No,
It's ridiculous.
you know what? I learned this recently that he's very specialised in shooters, and you give him like a fighting game or like a he calls them like sword games. So like things like Dark Souls or Sekiro, he says he's not very good at them, so he just plays shooters. But either way, he's scared me a lot.
Well, I mean, he is good at shooters, so I don't blame him for sticking to them.
I've also been absolutely reliving my youth and playing some Tony Hawk every now and then. And I've realised that in my youth I was shit, and as a fully grown 32-year-old, I'm also really shit at Tony Hawk. But it's a really good game, and the soundtracks makes it worth playing.
Yeah, this is one that I've currently stayed fairly clear of, and not because I don't want to, because I really want to play it. I just haven't had the opportunity to at the moment, and I absolutely loved Tony Hawk as a kid, and I remember playing. Is it Horse, the one where you have to get the letters?
Yeah,
I
man.
remember playing Horse so much, especially as you could change the word. And obviously, we were like 13 years old and we were immature, and we'd always change the word to like spunk or something dumb. And be
Classic.
the first one to get the spunk wins. Some absolutely ridiculous name. But I just really haven't had an opportunity to play it. Again, does it feel like the original? Does it feel like they've fully, like, are we talking, does it feel like Crash Bandicoot where it feels like the same game, or is it like a complete new rebuild?
I mean, it's rebuilt from the ground up, but it feels at its core it's Tony Hawk. It's not quite Underground because that was the best one, we all know. But it's a really solid game, and it's definitely worth it's like a £25 price tag on it. It's well worth it.
Yeah, I don't think it's particularly expensive either, is it? It's followed like the Spyro Activision price point in being quite cheap.
Yeah, I'm really feeling these remasters as well that are coming out, like Spyro and Crash, Demon Souls as well, which we'll talk about in a bit, I think.
No,
But
and I'm with you on this. As long as they are these remakes or remasters that are happening that are clearly sort of had work put into them. I absolutely loathe these HD remasters that are just the same game with just some slightly better graphics, whereas these are all games that feel like they've been rebuilt from the ground up to emulate as well as move with the current generation of consoles.
yeah, I think that's definitely the key point into a good selling remaster is like it's not just a shiny coat of paint. Like it's more than that. It's it's capturing how you thought it looked when you were a kid playing it. It's like how it now looks. Like, I remember playing like Spyro, thinking like, "Oh my god, it's so vibrant and colourful." And you look at it now, and it's like everything's just a box. Like there's just a triangle or a box. And then you look at like the new Spyro, and it's like a fully fledged world. Like,
It's those rose tinted glasses, man.
yeah, exactly, man. Yeah,
They are horrific. Like those rose tinted glasses. You look back, and there's so many games that I look back on and think, "You absolutely love that game. It was great. It looked great. It played great." I've played it since. I played recently, and this isn't what I've been playing this week, but I have recently played Mario 64 on the actual N64, and I know it's a classic, and I know everybody loves it, but it plays like trash now.
yeah.
And I know that's controversial, and a lot of people are going to be getting up in my grill about this, but it genuinely does not play particularly well. The camera's atrocious. The controls aren't brilliant.
Oh my god.
Graphically,
Episode 1, Mario fucking sucks.
no, because I love Mario. It's just, oh my god, going back, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I'm used to these like new wizardry games that are just like flooding my screen with these beautiful colors and massive maps, and you're asking me to run around in a circle with a camera that doesn't move very well.
Oh man. Right, so what have you been playing this week? I'm interested because we've not talked about this, and we usually do, but we've not.
Well, interestingly, I mean, unfortunately, I haven't had much gaming time this week because between planning for this and work, it's been a bit busy. But what I have been playing is Divinity Original Sin 2. I, much like I believe you, and many people I know, have never got past the first island.
No, never. It's never happened.
On my solo play, I got onto the boat, and then that's it. I haven't played it since. And a friend of ours who is also our chief blog writer, Ryan, he is currently got a bit more free time, and we've been talking for a long time about doing a co-op run through of Divinity, and again, actually making it off the first island, and actually
did you do it?
Achieving something.
Has it been done?
We haven't done it yet. So we've only just started. We created our characters. We've been slowly working our way around Fort Joy. We've both gone for an undead build. We've got Fane as well, who's an undead character. And for those that don't know this game, it's very much like a Dungeons and Dragons. Every decision you make has an impact on the game, and we are basically going for the let's just poison everything build because it heals us.
Yeah.
So Ryan's following my lead in slowly murdering every single person we come across. So at the moment we are XP farming our way through Fort Joy.
Because we played this, didn't we, a while back? Like me, you, Ryan, and Strongback.
We did.
And I think we had all had disagreeing points on how we should play the game. Yeah, we never got past the first island either.
I mean, I enjoyed that, but I think 4 people's too many. Because, like you say, there is too much disagreement. There's too much going on in that game, and it's too easy to do something that has major effects on the game. And when there's 4 of you, it's easy for one of you to kind of start a fight with someone you shouldn't.
Yeah, and which you were doing every single time. You were like, "Fucking kill this guy."
But with two of us, it's a lot easier. We're agreeing a lot more. We're taking our time a lot more to make sure that we're following a path that we both want to. Right now, Ryan is very much leaning on me and accepting that let's just murder everyone in Fort Joy and see how that affects the story later. So yeah, we're only level 4, so we're still quite early. And we've only just got the completion of the mission for escaping Fort Joy. But yeah, we're working through that, and hopefully I might have an update next week as to where we get further from that, because I think we're going to have a big session Monday and Tuesday and see if we can get off the island. Hopefully.
Yeah, I'm interested in that progress update, man. Defo, and I think it might have been the kick to, because Strongback. I'm just gonna call him Aaron because that's his name. He's been asking me for like a few days, a few weeks, if not more. Just it's like, I've got, because every time I'm like, what should we play? And he's like, I've got Divinity installed. I'm like, I haven't got it installed, so we'll just play something else. So I think this is the boost I need to jump back in.
From what I've read, because I've never played it, from what I've read, it's a huge game, and that actually the first island is only like less than 10% of the game.
Yeah, you're looking at like never made it past 60 to 90 hours or something, I think.
Yeah, like we haven't experienced any of that, and this is a real opportunity to, especially while we've got this lull in what's coming out at the moment. I mean, we've had Avengers, but that kind of, it's okay.
I have been playing a bit of that, to be fair, but it's not that great.
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing it, and I haven't played any this week. I've got very little passion to go back and finish the campaign.
Yeah.
I find, and I don't know what your view is, that Iron Man is so trash in it that every time it makes me play as him, it makes me not want to play the campaign.
Yep, exactly that. I hate Iron Man. It's awful. But I think what's going to drag me through that game is my son. He's like 9. He loves Avengers. He was so hyped about this game, so I bought it. I was going to rent it originally and just send it back after a bit. But bought it because he'd love to play it through with me and stuff. So we're probably going to play it through and get it finished together. But I think that's like the only draw to it, is like it'll just be a good time, my son.
Yeah, and I can see it being really fun for kids, and I can see kids getting really into it, and like I will finish it, because I don't like. It's not one of those games that is so like it's frustrating or hard to the point that I hate it. It's just I'm just not drawn to it. But I will finish it. I will send it, and then I'll send it back. Cheap.
I thought you cut out then.
No, I'll probably pick it up cheap in the sales in a couple of months' time, once they've released some new maps and some new characters, and they've worked out some of the like little niggly things that are annoying. Like menus and stuff. Once they've done some sort of really some little fixes on it, I think it'll get good. It's just one of those games that's going to start off real slow.
Yeah, I think it's due an update today, I believe, like a 1.3 update or something like that.
Can't say I've been following it, so I'm not sure.
No, I just saw it on Twitter earlier. But yeah, I think because it's a games as a service basically, isn't it? So
yeah,
it's gonna be out for a while. They're gonna keep ploughing into it and changing stuff, and I think it's one of those to keep an eye on. I think it will get better. Well, I hope it will get better.
I'm sure it will. Like when you look back at the likes of Destiny and other, I mean, I can't think of any other games service off the top of my head, but Division.
Yeah.
You look back at those and how much they've changed over the years, sometimes for the worse, but often for the better. And how, I mean, Division's a prime example. When Division first came out, it was much like Avengers. It was quite a bland, boring campaign with nothing really going for it. And now it's developed into, particularly with the second one, it's developed into something much better and much more enjoyable. So I'm sure it will get better. It'll just be a case of time.
Just speaking of Division as well, they've just got a new update. They had like a trailer for it recently, where you basically attack a tower block and then go up level after level, obviously eventually getting harder and harder.
So they've made a mission for the film The Raid.
Yeah, it's like the fucking Raid, the game.
The Raid. literally the raid, except with guns and less martial arts.
Yeah, no martial arts whatsoever.
Which is
but
upsetting, really. They could have capitalised on that.
I'm just fully in. I'm like, it's the raid. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I still haven't finished the main campaign. I do need to go back to that because I did enjoy that game a lot. But on the note of new things, maybe we should move on into our next segment, which is our news of the week, in which we
Smooth
have
segue.
lots of
I
new
like it.
things. Lots of new things to talk about.
There's a lot of shit to unpack.
Yeah. So this week, as our first episode, instead of just covering the news from this small snippet of 7 days, we thought it would be more prudent, a new episode, a new generation, to talk about the news from the last 2 weeks with the launch of both the PS5's price and release date and Xbox's price and release date.
Mate, you are killing it with these segues.
I mean,
Absolutely making it.
I've been practicing them a lot in the car. So, I mean, I'll kick us off with Xbox, who came first. They had an interesting launch. Well, an interesting release, should I say, not launch because they haven't launched yet, but an interesting release schedule with how they dealt with it, because it was all done by leaks. Although they say it was all done by leaks, I do have my suspicions that these were potentially planned leaks.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? With like social media and stuff, it's just like it's a leak in fucking inverted commas, like.
Yeah, I mean, one of two things happened. Either it was a genuine leak and their social media team was absolutely fucking on it, and because their social media team landed that extremely well.
Yeah.
And they were just on it, they were ready, and they just happened to be right place, right time, right, we smashed it. Or it was a little bit of a pre-planned, should we make this look like a leak, and we're fully prepared to deal with it.
Yeah. I mean, either way, it's a pretty commendable job by the PR team. Like,
the PR team did an incredible job. And when you see the tweets that came out around the leak and the way they handled it, it was an incredible job.
Yeah,
but it was all a little bit too incredible, for my opinion.
Yeah. But I think like nowadays, you look at Twitter for all of your news and stuff like that, and I mean, there's other social media, but it's not as instant as Twitter. But I think,
no, definitely.
If you look at like Fall Guys Twitter, like that game released, and it was just everywhere for like weeks, and it's still on my feed, and it's starting to piss me off now. But their Twitter did such an incredible job of like just keeping it going and going and going. And
100%, their Twitter was hilarious.
It's like essential now just to be that sort of relevant.
Yeah, definitely. And this is the thing though, like what gets more clicks? A story of Xbox saying this is the price and date, or this is the time we're going to show the price or date, or the story of, oh no, somebody's leaked Xbox's secret stuff.
Yeah. It's that air of mystery. It's always like,
exactly.
Oh, shit.
It's that, oh shit, so Microsoft didn't know this was happening. Oh, let's go get the information before even Phil Spencer knows.
Yeah, we're on to you, Xbox.
I mean, but breaking that down, if we run down sort of the key points of what happened. So the leak came out, and I believe it was by something like Windows. It was a Windows-based website that it was like a Microsoft-based website. I can't remember the name of it now, but they announced the initial saying that there was going to be a Microsoft an Xbox Series S. And it was going to be £250 or $299, and that the Series X was going to be £450 or $499. A day, I think it was just under a day later, Microsoft came out on Twitter and was like, "Well, cat's out of the bag. We might as well confirm it." They didn't initially confirm the Series X, but they did confirm the Series S, and then proceeded to show us images of what it looked like. And gave a little breakdown of what it was going to be and how it looked. So the Series S, in this case, being a slightly weaker console than the Series X. But the way that they're explaining it, and I'm not a massive tech head, so I don't know the ins and outs of how this works.
Yeah,
but what they're saying
that's why we have other people in our like
Exactly.
TripleXP team. They are the tech people. We are the fucking idiots with the opinions.
Exactly. We're the front men. Um,
The
my
confidence guy.
That's the one. My understanding is that the S is still an extremely powerful machine, and that it's the GPU that and the RAM speed that are the two things that are slightly decreased. The only other big factor is decreased is the actual memory of it. So my understanding
Like
is
the
that
storage as well
the
as
actual storage memory,
yeah.
yeah, that's what I mean, the actual storage memory. So my understanding is that the S, unlike the X, is going to be 500 and I want to say 12 gig. It's 500 and something gig, whereas
Yeah.
the X is 1 terabyte.
Which
And the S has a slightly slower GPU and a slower RAM speed. But what Xbox are saying is that this won't affect how games are made, and all it will do is that games that are made for the X, it will just simply lower the resolution of them to allow the S to play them.
yeah. What my issue is with it's an all digital console, there's no disc tray in there, is there?
Correct, it's all
Yeah.
digital.
And the storage space is 500 gig, which
It's
like
nothing.
it's not enough
Not
at all.
now. When you look at, for
Look at
example,
COD.
just an example, COD.
Yeah.
COD is one of the best-selling games ever, and it's what 119 gig now
If not more.
on console with updates. It's close to that,
Yeah.
100 plus gig. So you're looking at a game of that size for 500 whatever it is gig, less than 5 games that you can have installed at any one time.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous
But,
because I've
like,
got more than 5 games.
It's a next gen console, so the amount of storage and stuff that you need for these amazing titles that are going to come out, it's going to fill up fast. That's
but
a major
then
issue.
there is an argument around the new way of packaging data and the way that the SSD reads means that games will have to take up less space. So actually, what we could see is a game like COD taking up substantially less space than it does on our current HDD consoles because of the way that it formats and packs data differently. But we have, obviously, until we get our hands on the consoles and really see that, it's going to be difficult. That a lot of that is just speculation. What they did also go into is a little bit more around Game Pass and what's going to be offered with Game Pass. And I mean, I've got to give it to Xbox. I do think that they have created two incredible consoles here, and with the Series S, what a absolutely fantastic piece of kit for example, someone like yourself, Mike, who's got children that are of the age of 7, 8, or 9 that want their first own console, and you can just go, you know what, for Christmas, here you go, 250 quid, you get yourself an Xbox, Game Pass, all the games you'll ever want, stick a parental lock on it, job's done. Jobs are good and light. Because kids at that age, they don't care what they're playing. They don't know what they're playing. They just want to play games.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not necessarily that fussed about playing the newest stuff or what's happening right now.
I said this to you earlier in the week that like, just about like the naming and stuff is quite confusing. Like the Series S, the Series X, the Xbox One S. All of those. Like I can imagine like a parent that is not super into games, but the kid is. They wander into a store. They're like, oh, they want I want an Xbox S, and that they get like they bring an Xbox One S home, and they want like the Series S. It's kind of like it's just got that weird room for like error, I think. Whereas like
100%.
with PlayStation, it's really simple. It's like you've got the 4. You've got the 5. It's that simple.
Yeah. And Microsoft have very much backed themselves into a corner with this. They've put themselves into a corner and gone, fuck.
Yeah.
How do we get ourselves out of this corner? And to me, they had the Xbox One. They should have just gone, and they're the One X and the One S. They should have just gone with this being the Xbox 2 and then the Xbox 2S.
Yeah.
Because granted, yes, they've still got the original Xbox and the 360, but at least set them on the path for a future of easy naming. Because what's the next generation going to be? Like, where are they going to go then? Is it going to be the Xbox franchise X, in the Xbox franchise S. Like, what is what is after series? What comes next?
360S, isn't it? Easy.
We'll just go back again. Just keep a circle. We're just
362
every 7 years
S.
we just recycle the same names and hope that nobody notices. But overall, like I say, a couple of days later, they did confirm the Xbox One X prices, a November 10th release date, and then we conveniently had a lot of games who had previous release dates all suddenly move to meet in line with Xbox. They had obviously given out not necessarily fake release dates, but they had to give out something, and they couldn't all say, "Oh yeah, we're coming out on November 10th," because that would have been suspicious as fuck. So they've all kind of fallen in line now. Things like Yakuza, Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs have all kind of fallen into that November 10th. So they meet into the exclusive zone. Not exclusive, sorry, the launch zone.
Yeah.
But on the note of exclusives, that is the one part of the one part of the puzzle that Xbox don't have is the exclusives.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it's a difficult one because it's very clear from me, and I'll be interested to hear your views on this, that Xbox are fighting a very different fight. This is the RAF fighting troops. They're fighting two very different battles.
That's it. Yeah, it's two very different viewpoints on like the future of games kind of thing. This place is more like super solid. Like, I always compare like Game Pass, that like Xbox has got this like games as a a service, like Netflix of gaming kind of thing. That's their new stick, and they're going with that, and that's cool. That's good. Game Pass, great value. But when you look, like, for me personally, I think I've said this a lot. I rant it a lot on Twitter. That like Game Pass is an all-you-can-eat buffet of like 6 out of 10 games. Like, you play a game for a bit, it's great, have fun, move on to the next game because there's just too many there. It's that kind of gaming ADHD where you're just like next game, next game, next game. Because I've got Game Pass and I dip into it a bit, and I'm just like, but it's just like I'll play this game, then this game, then this game. I'll get bored, and then I'll just go back to PlayStation because the new latest game, the 9 out of 10 fillet steak of a game has just come out, and I'll be digging into that, and they're just two very different like paths. Is basically what I'm getting.
Yeah, they are. Like you say, it's like a boat versus a tank. They're two very different battles. They're going down very different paths.
Shark versus tiger.
And yeah, they are both apex predators within their own realm, within their own sort of area, but they're just fighting two different battles.
Yeah.
And that's become very, very clear. I mean, the last generation, not so much. This generation, it's become very clear that that's the case. Microsoft are not fighting the exclusive AAA game console battle that Sony's fighting. Microsoft are very much, like you say, they're going down that. We are the Netflix of gamers. We are giving you this incredible, and it is an incredible offer.
Yeah, it's really good, and I'll definitely pick up an S. I've got no interest in the X.
100%, exactly the same. I mean, me and you are both PlayStation players, Corley, and we're both happy to admit that. But yeah, I mean, give it a year. When Halo comes out, I would be more than happy to go and pick up an S, get myself Game Pass, replace my old Xbox One that I've got sitting upstairs, and have a pop on Halo, because that's their one big title that I am genuinely interested in. Everything else on Games Pass, I'll play it when I play it.
I've got a Halo story for later on. The third our main topic.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, it's a doozy.
well, on the note of them fighting different battles, let's hear about the PS5's weapon of attack, shall we say? Do you want to take that away, Mike?
Yeah. So the showcase was. Remind me which day it was. Was it Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday.
It was Wednesday. Yeah. So we're recording this on Friday. And they hit us with quite a few new games that we've not seen before. We've got some old stuff that we know about, and we had the price reveal, which is a huge thing, which you've all just been like dying for. Like, recently they They're playing this like I heard it referenced as like a shadow war like recently.
Shadow
A
War.
shadow war, yeah, where they're just like playing chicken with like the price reveals and Xbox was leaked or whatever, like you said, invert commas,
Fucking the Cold
quotes.
War of gaming.
It's exactly that, isn't it? Cold War of gaming. Yeah, so we've got like a ton of I say a ton. Like
Handful.
yeah, we've got enough, I think.
A comfortable cupping
Yeah.
size.
Yeah. So the first big hitter, Final Fantasy. I've got it in my notes as Final Fantasy Joshua, just because that name was mentioned quite a few times in the trailer. But it's.
I mean, do you play much Final Fantasy, Mike?
I've dipped into so many of them. I've never finished a single one. I'm ashamed
because
to
this one
say.
really excites me. And
yeah, you're a big Final Fantasy fan, aren't you? So
I'm not massive, but I've dabbled in most of them. And I've completed maybe 4 or 5.
yeah, but not 10.
I've not completed number 10 though. I've completed 10 too though, but that's not really much to say because that's one of the easiest ones to complete. Let's not talk about that again. Anyway, the reason I'm really excited about this is because it's taken the combat of 15 and 7 remake, which like you can say what you want about those games, but the combat in those is solid. They've got really good combat, and it feels like from what we saw in the trailer, it's very much going back to old school Final Fantasy. It's going back to the early days of like 1 to 6, which are heavily based on the crystals.
Yeah.
But even the setting of it being like a almost like medieval-esque fantasy world, having like you see the dragoons, which were very much reminded me of Final Fantasy IV, which was one of my absolute all-time favorite Final Fantasies, where they've gone away from the sci-fi and the guns, and they've gone away from what sort of 7, 8, and even to an extent 10 and 13 had, and they've gone back to that sort of darker, more medieval-esque world where they've got airships and you've got dragoons and everyone fights with swords and lances instead of there being gun blades and people with machine guns, yet somehow someone can fight them off with a sword that's so big that it basically rivals the size of a car. Like, I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, it's definitely piqued my interest for sure. I think the fantasy setting over the sci-fi-ish setting will always win me over. Like, I think like any listeners of the podcast will eventually learn that I will always choose fantasy over sci-fi.
See, I'm the other way. I will always choose sci-fi over fantasy.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
when it comes to Final Fantasy, I think, with the exception of 7 and 8, which I do love both of those, I've always enjoyed 4, 5, and 6, and that sort of more magical fantasy world more than I have the sci-fi fantasy world.
Yeah, I think this is. It looked kind of like The Witcher.
Yeah, it did have that vibe, didn't it?
And I keep looking. I keep seeing like a GIF of the. I'm going to butcher this name, but like the Marlboro. Like
yeah,
big...
I think it's Marlboro or Marlboro. Marlboro is the cigarette, isn't it? Marlboro. Yeah, that's it. I mean, we've probably got that wrong, but
yeah, that'll do. Close enough.
Apologies to anyone who's listening who's offended by that.
Yeah, there'll be someone out there, won't there?
We've definitely fucked that up.
But that like, I want to fight that. I want to get fucked up by that. I want to lose that fight and just keep fighting that monster because it looks so good. Like the combat, like you said, looks incredible. But moving on, there's a ton of. Well, I say a ton. There's not a ton. Using that loosely. There's a few more games we need to talk about. But I think we keep waffling on. In my notes again. Second up was Miles Morales, Spider-Man, which to me looked like more Spider-Man.
That's exactly it.
And it's great. Yeah, awesome.
And to be fair, a friend of ours stated during the conference, during the showcase, it looks like Spider-Man meet Infamous, which I don't disagree with. I think it does, and I don't see that as a bad thing. I didn't dislike any of the Infamous games. I thought all of them were pretty solid. they were all very superhero-esque anyway, so they lent themselves well to that sort of world. And giving obviously having Miles does have those electric powers anyway. It just looked like, say, like more Spider-Man.
Yeah, it was more like superhero-ish than the previous one because he had like abilities and powers and stuff. So I think that'll be good. It's a great, it's a launch title, so that's great. I've seen a bunch of people complaining that it's also on PS4, which I don't see as a bad thing. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
I don't
think
get
it's
the
whole fanboy Xbox versus PlayStation thing. It's like it's available to more people. That's awesome. Like I'll more likely to pick it up on PS4 than 5. Just because my son, massive Marvel fan. Other than Iron Man, Spider-Man's his favourite, and he's actually platinumed the first one, and he's like 9 years old.
And he's better at games than you, yeah.
Yeah. he's platinumed that and
100%.
finished all the DLC and everything. So he's so I've trained him well. But
I think a lot of the argument around the concern of Spider-Man being on PS4 is people saying, well, then it's not going to be PS5 quality.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
it's going to be a dumbed down.
Yeah.
But then Sony and who is it that's made it? My brain's gone dead. Sucker Punch? Is it Sucker Punch? No.
Insomniac.
Insomniac, that's the one. Sony and Insomniac have both said that it will utilize the new features of the PS5, as in with regards to the control and the 3D audio, and that the PS4 version won't have that.
Yeah, so you're getting a different experience, aren't you?
Yeah, if you play it on PS5, you're going to get the best experience. It's not going to be any less. It's not going to be a lesser game just because it's being made for both consoles.
No, I agree. I agree totally. Should we move on to the next one? The next big hitter was a game that we've all kind of known about weirdly for a while, and that's in my notes again. Hogwarts 1886. It's set before Harry Potter, so it's not technically a Harry Potter game.
Yeah, I didn't know this until today. I only found this out when someone from work told me this today, that it was set prior, because I know nothing about Harry Potter.
I think it came up in like subtext below that it was set in the 1800s.
So is that set before? Are you a Harry Potter fan?
I mean, I've read the books, watched the films, so.
Is it set before Fantastic Beasts?
Yes,
I don't know when
that's like 1920. That's like kind of wartime-ish.
Early 1900s.
Yeah. So this is 1800s, so it's older. But I think they're going to struggle to establish like the Harry Potter world. It's going to be completely separate from everything that we've known so far, because there's going to be none of like the returning characters and stuff. I mean, there might be some that have been around for hundreds of years or whatever, but it's like all the big hitters, Harry and Hagrid and all them, Dumbledore maybe, not really going to be in it because it's set way before, so it's like a fresh new thing. And I also want to like just point out that it's really bad timing for any kind of Harry Potter news, just because of like the whole controversy on like Twitter and J.K. Rowling and all that.
She's not helping herself, is she?
She's not at all, and I don't want to read too much into it. I don't want to get too political and shit. So
no, what I am interested in, coming away from J.K. Rowling and her being an idiot, I am interested in is I wonder whether the Harry Potter, I shouldn't call it Harry Potter, the Hogwarts game, sorry, whether it's going to feature a Muggles part of the game where you can go into the normal real world, and if you can, like what that's going to look like.
Yeah,
if it's
so like in the 1800s, it's going to be like witch hunters and shit like that, isn't it? So
exactly,
I feel like that could be like a cool mechanic of it.
I wonder if the entire game is going to be set within the sort of more Hogwartsy mystical world, or whether there is going to be an opportunity to come over into the more Muggle world and sort of interact with people that aren't of the wizarding community.
Yeah, definitely interesting. Definitely one to keep an eye on for sure. And just referring back to my notes, the next game that was up during the conference was Call of Duty Toilet Break. because this is the point
yeah.
where, as we were all watching it, we're just like, right, be right back.
I mean,
It's
I did watch it, and for me, it was Call of Duty, Cold War, Fast and Furious 10.
oh shit,
Because
yeah, because I watched it as well, but there was a few
it,
others
it
that
was it was literally like it literally felt like it was the ending to Fast. I can't remember which one it is, Fast 6 or whichever one has the plane taken off at the end.
yeah, I've
And
seen that a
it
bit on Twitter as well.
it was the same. It just looked the same. It was mad, absolutely madness.
Yeah,
And it
but
was just like over the top Fast and Furious style stunts, which I am all for because I
oh yeah,
love
oh yeah,
a bit of over the top stunts. But there was nothing new there, was there really?
no. I mean, it's Call of Duty. We're all gonna get it day one. We're all gonna pay 60 quid to hate our lives because we're shit at the game now. Apart from Strong Back, who'll just destroy it and carry us all.
I enjoy that you said shit at the game now. I've never been good at the game. I've always been shit.
Oh man,
There's no
I
now
had
in
my
this.
heyday, man. I had my heyday. Where I was
I've
like,
never had my heyday.
you know, the stack of Mountain Dew and Doritos, and I was there, man. Modern Warfare 2 days.
Good times.
Yeah, man. So another game, Resident Evil Village. We've kind of seen it before already. Looked awesome.
Yeah, really, really interested in seeing what this has to offer.
Yeah, it looks very 4 influenced, like Resident Evil 4, which in my opinion is the best one, and kind of the first person. It was like a resurgence for Final Fantasy when 7 came out. As just being like a new, fresh take on Resident Evil, and it's kind of a mix of those two, I think. So it's got your spooky castles and
Yeah, it seemed to lean a lot into the idea of like fables and like
yeah,
lore instead of it being all about like this scientific virus. It seemed to lean more into like
like
the fables
werewolves
around
and
the town. Yeah, that sort of thing, which I'm really quite intrigued by.
yeah. I'm down for that totally. I'm on board with Resident Evil Village or 8, whatever you want to call it. Another game that looked pretty awesome in my opinion was Deathloop.
Looks great.
It had some like real. It was obviously like looks like Dishonored, but with a cartoon skin over it. But it had some real Hitman vibes, where it was a lot of different paths to take, and it seemed like it's really interesting concept of, these people have their routines and stuff, and then you learn those, and then you can kind of change how people's like set routines, interact with each other and stuff. Because in the trailer it showed like 2 people like in completely separate parts of the map, and then eventually they kind of become the same part, so you can kill them both at the same time. But what interested me most, it has this like second assassin that's hunting you. So you're like hunting these people, and then you have another, which I'm assuming is player controlled. I don't know.
I was about to say, we haven't had it confirmed yet whether that's an
Yeah, I don't
NPC
know.
assassin or if that's a multiplayer playable assassin or what that is to how that plays out.
Because if that's a second real person that's hunting me down, I am all on board for that, because that sounds awesome. It sounds hard.
I was about to say it sounds awesome, but it also sounds like I'm going to be dead a lot because
Yeah.
most people are better at games than me.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I mean, it looks good. It looks either way. I'm on board. If it's computer controlled, but I am fully hype trained for it if it's not AI. We had as well. We had DMC5, like a Virgil. So this is like the Virgil expansion available digitally, which is okay. We also had Abe's Odyssey Soulstorm, which they had the usual developer talking about it, saying this is made possible with PS5, and it just looks like a PS4 game. It looks fine. I'm a bit.
Just look like Abe's Odyssey.
Yes, I'm just on the fence with it. I'm not. It looked like nothing new. Looked like nothing next gen.
Agreed.
We also had after that Five Nights at Freddy's for some reason.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah,
That was a weird drop in. It was as weird as the Fortnite drop in. It was just a
yeah, it was
very
a
odd. Like, how do we fill these 30 seconds?
yeah. You know, I didn't even put the Fortnite drop in my notes, so I'm glad you mentioned that. It was a Fortnite drop in, so that was the thing. Yeah, day one. Let's go.
Let's
The
go back
big
to that game we stopped playing about 6 years ago.
yeah, because we're shit at it now. Because we can't, like, you get shot at and then you have to turn into like the fucking Nakatomi Tower.
For literally.
Yeah, so we had Demon Souls as well, which is, let's face it, everyone's day one purchase for like the launch title. I mean, it's way up there. It looked so crisp. It looked like the most next gen game that I've seen so far, other than maybe Ratchet and Clank.
Which does look amazing. I am so excited by the concept of being extremely happy by having a new console and being extremely sad by Demon Souls killing me repeatedly, all in the same day.
Yeah, like, I suck at this new console. Like,
I'm gonna both hate it and love it
yeah,
all at once. It's gonna be glorious.
happy that you've got a new console, but also hate yourself because of Demon Souls.
I
Yeah,
give the controller 4 days.
it's something that I kind of want to move on to the next point because they had their PS Plus collection, which was kind of a weird answer to Game Pass. I think it's like definitely warrants like the price of not Game Pass, the price of Plus, because it had all of the classic games, like they call it like genre defining, or PlayStation defining games. So you had like Bloodborne, a lot of the PS exclusives in there, and a few other third parties, and it's a really great way of saying we have like a small launch title amount of launch titles, but we also have these amazing classic games that you can also play. And yeah, go on. What did you think of that? The PS collection.
It's a difficult one in my opinion because like you say, it's a weird answer to Game Pass because if you are a PlayStation fan and you have been on the PS4 and you have had a PS4 or PS4 Pro or you've been in the last generation as a minimum, the games they're offering are the top tier games that it's very likely you're probably going to have played because they are the critically acclaimed award winning games, and there are games that to be quite frank, if you've owned a PS4 in the last 7 years and you haven't played them, then what are you doing with your controller and your console?
Yeah,
Because these are like God of War, for example. Like, what have you been doing with your life if you've owned a console and you haven't played that game?
yeah. But I mean, it's a great reason to get invested in PlayStation. Is like,
And that's the other view. On the other side of it, if you've not had a PlayStation in the last 7 years,
yeah,
and you want to get into the PlayStation ecosystem, having this incredible sort of back catalogue, and it's granted it's a small back catalogue, but this incredible small back catalogue of the most refined, tailored, award-winning games.
yeah, some
is
great games
incredible.
in there. And there's maybe 2 or 3 that I haven't played.
Yeah, same.
Bloodborne being one of them, and this is kind of what I wanted to segue from Demon Souls is that I want to jump back into that and be like playing Demon Souls and playing Bloodborne and just getting that kind of like fix of like that hard game and succeeding through it. So I think if Bloodborne gets like a visual upgrade and stuff with the PS5 as well, I think that'd be a bonus.
100%. I mean, we both know that I'm a Bloodborne pro, so
You played it one time.
I played it one time and I beat the last 3 bosses first time without a single death.
So
I must be a pro.
unjustified, considering how much you struggled with the Star Wars game,
Yeah, whatever it's
Fallen
called,
Order, wasn't it?
Fallen Order. I struggled with that so much, and yet I breezed near enough all of Bloodborne bar one boss, which was the
So unjustified.
bloody what was it? The cemetery hunter dude, wheelchair man. I don't know I can't remember his name. Not wheelchair man. I can't remember his name.
Whatever.
But
Yeah, I
anyway,
can't even remember. You didn't even. You weren't even
no,
near him that long, so
he was like the
just mopped
second
him up.
boss or something, and I I struggled with him, and after that it was just like no boss is ever going to kill me again.
Oh, insane! I can't believe that. Yeah, finally, and let's just wrap up this God of War Game of the Year 2021. All we got was the title card. That's all we needed for Hype Train.
It's going to be an incredible game.
Yeah, we're already there. They just PlayStation just came out and just announced 2021 Game of the Year. Here it is.
Well, what I'm really interested in is because Ragnarok, we know from the first God of War and with the naming that it's going to be heavily featured around 4 and sort of the events of God of War 1 and how that's going to play into God of War 2. Mm-hmm. Now, we know that God of War doesn't pull any punches when it comes to some of the mythos and the backgrounds of these characters. And when you look at obviously the 4 of Marvel and the 4 that we see in a lot of things is this very like nice, happy guy. But when you start to look into the actual like mythology behind him, he's actually a bit of a dick.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really interesting to see how God of War plays to that sort of mythos of him. Of actually, are they going to portray him as this bit of a dick who's a bit of an alcoholic, a womanizer, and would just murder for fun because he had the ability to, instead of this like Marvel-esque style character where he's just like the best of the best, the nicest man you'll ever meet.
Yeah,
so I think that's going to be really interesting.
They're definitely going to do it different to Marvel. I think that's a certain.
I mean that's a given. I just hope they really do stick to that because they very much went down that route in God of War 1, didn't they? Of showing him as a bit of a drunk, a bit of an idiot, not an idiot, a bit of a dick, and a bit of a murderer as well. And I think I'm hoping that they're gonna stick to that and show him as just like portray him as just a really, really horrible bastard. Because Kratos, in fairness, we've all grown to love Kratos, and he is also a bit of a horrible bastard.
Oh yeah,
he's done some pretty horrific things.
Absolute scumbag.
Over his career as a murdering bastard, he's done some horrific things.
He's up there with the best. But we all love him. We all love him and his beard.
It's just the way he shouts "boy." It just gets me every time.
Boy, yeah. So good. But yeah, that was it. That's how they wrapped up with God of War, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was then they finished off with November 12th for half the world, and November 19th for Europe and the UK, and a couple of other random countries.
Us being in that random country collection. Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah. But what did surprise me though is price-wise, they were pretty on par with PlayStation at $499.
Yeah,
£450.
They hit the price point
with Xbox even.
Spot on with the price point, really, without being too unrealistic.
They did, but I think most of us expected it to be higher.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that it was going to be around this price, and it was, but I was expecting realistically higher, but
yeah, same. I was hoping for $450, but I was expecting $550. I was expecting $599, $550, and with the discless edition, I think $359 would for the UK price. That's very realistic in that's only £110 more than the Xbox, but you're getting the full-fledged big boy console just without a disc tray, as opposed to a downgraded version of a console. That I think that price point is, as you say, spot on. And considering the fact that when I went to pre-order them the next day, which let's just put out there, Sony absolutely fucked the pre-order process. It was a shambles.
They dropped an absolute clanger there, didn't they?
They wrote, that whole process. Even when they said weeks ago, we're not just going to tell you a day before. We've told you a day before.
Yeah.
But
Like,
I went on Amazon, for example, and it was 15 minutes it sold out. So
yeah,
it's whether that's down to low stock levels or whether that's down to the fact that everyone's just going out and purchasing them straight away, I can't say. But
yeah. I
I
think we're
mean,
going to get
it
some
gives
interesting stats like a few weeks down the line of like how many actual pre-orders were made and
yeah,
stuff. That'll be interesting.
definitely.
But I feel like they tried to drop like a like Apex did when that launched. It was like available now, and everyone just went and downloaded it, and now it's like one of the
Well,
most successful battle royales. But I
which
think
is
they tried to
fine.
do that, but it
Which is
just
fine when it's
flopped.
a free game,
Yeah,
not when it's a £450 console. They're
that
two very
everyone wants.
different things. Because
Yeah, they
so
fucked it really there, haven't they?
well, I know that for the UK, so like game went live at midnight and was sold out very quickly. I think I got an email from them at midnight saying you can pre-order now. They were already sold out by the time the email had got to me.
Yeah, yeah,
Amazon went live at 9 a.m. and they had sold out by about 15 minutes past.
yeah.
And at
Apparently,
that point,
Argos last night were updating their system at midnight, and then I was on it at midnight trying to snag a pre-order, but it was just the site was just down. They were just like,
yeah, it
"Yeah,
was just
you'll get
manic.
one. Don't
And
worry."
literally everyone is just sold out already. It's absolute madness. But,
Yeah,
I'm sure more stock will come. I'm sure
yeah,
we'll
it will,
have
won't it? There's no pressure really. It'll be
no.
fine. You'll get one eventually. Like, but even
Well,
like with the launch lineup, it's pretty fairly strong. Probably stronger than most generations have been. But even still, like you can wait a week and you might be
yeah,
missing. It's FOMO, isn't it? You fear of missing out. But um,
100%. And the thing is, it launches late November,
yeah, there's plenty of time.
and there's no bundles. And I've got a feeling that that is because there's going to be Christmas bundles released
Hmm.
with like Spider-Man bundled in and
Oh
things like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So although we're getting no bundles for November, it could be that yeah, you might not get the November 19th, but actually you've got to wait less than a month, and you're going to get bundles and galore for Christmas that are going
Hmm.
to cover all of that.
Yeah, definitely. Right, should
So that
we stop being Sony fanboys and move on? Or are
yeah,
we missing
so there
anything
was
there?
no what well we are missing one thing, and that was as well as those two companies throwing in their swords those 2 weeks. We also had Nintendo just like turning up with its little fucking spud gun
Oh
and
yeah,
being
yeah.
like, look at me. What did I have? We've got some stuff too.
You know what? I
Um,
think Nintendo quietly just kills it every time with their
uh,
directs. Like, um,
they they really do.
but I think like this week there was what was it today or yesterday? Can't remember.
Well,
It
it
was
wasn't
yesterday,
today.
wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, was it? It definitely wasn't today.
No, no. My days are just blended into one at the minute. But yeah, we had Monster Hunter. New Monster Hunter game. That's always good. Everyone loves Monster Hunter. But they had like a fully fledged Monster Hunter serious game. And then they had Monster Hunter Stories, which is like almost like a Pokemon type of thing. It's kind of weird. I don't really get it. They
Yeah, I
also
mean,
had
I'm just watching the trailer for that now, actually, while we're going through this, and it's from the art style for the graphics for the for Monster Hunter Stories is pretty cool though.
yeah. It looks kind of alright. Like it's interesting, but it's not fully fledged Monster Hunter, is it?
No,
Let's face it.
no,
Um,
no, it is not.
that's what we're all about here at TripleXP. Fully fledged Monster Hunter every time.
Every time.
We also had. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's kind of like. I feel like these are like up your alley because it's getting weeb territory.
Oh,
Which I know
what are you
you
saying?
love your sexy anime ladies and stuff.
I
But we
do
had
love my weird Japanese games. You're
yeah, yeah.
correct.
There we go. There it is. We had Rune Factory 5, which is a bit of a cult classic. It's kind of like Harvest Moon or Stardew Valley, where you'll be, kind of like RPG light, attacking monsters, doing all that shit. But in your like your downtime, you're farming, looking for relationships and stuff like that. So that was kind of nice to see that because I've heard about that quite a bit from that kind of like fan base of people that are like you're either really into Rune Factory or you've never heard of it. Like, so it was good to see that. I was like, once it was announced, I was like, oh, I remember this. Like, I've heard of this. So like, I knew instantly what it was. What else did we have? We had just pulling up the article now. Monster Hunter. Oh, Deciduous 6 as well was announced.
The Deciduous games. I've enjoyed the ones that I've played previously. They're a little bit different and a bit the comedy in it's a little bit odd, but I've always thought they were pretty solid games, to be honest.
Yeah, and then we had I don't actually know what else. I can't remember, but they were like the main hitters. Yeah, I just feel like the Nintendo just like quietly just kill it. They bring out these like
what is it they say? Nintendo will Nintendo.
Yeah. Just Nintendo does its own thing, and then
they do what they want. They don't care about what the rest of the industry's doing. They're just going, you know what, we enjoy that, so we're going to make that happen.
That's it. One weird thing they did recently, which was the timed release of the Mario 3D All Stars thing, where it's like only available till March.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I did, and it feels like that's just a bit of a marketing ploy, and that they're just going to release them separately afterwards.
That's what it is, isn't it?
That's what it feels like. I mean, I might be wrong, but it does feel very much like it's a bit of a marketing ploy to try and maximise sales at the earliest convenience for it.
But I say that like Microsoft quietly kill it, but they always drop like a weird sort of clanger like that, where it's like you can get this awesome collection of. I didn't even mention what it was, but Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, and Mario Galaxy. Those 3 games, like in a bundle, re-released on Switch. But I feel like they kill it, but then they also just drop like a weird thing, like making it a timed release, and it's just a weird choice for me. I think anyway. I don't know about you.
Yeah,
but...
it is. It is a bit weird. And just to anyone listening, just to clarify, Mike meant Nintendo then, even though he did say Microsoft.
Oh, did I? Oh shit! I guess I've had one too many glasses of wine.
I think you might have, mate. That may be the one. I think it's maybe time we move on to our third segment and come away from the news.
Yeah, man. Yeah, let's do it.
Let's move on to our third segment of the show, and this is where we really get deep into what we want to discuss every week, and that's going to be something that this is what video games really mean to us, and topics that we can really get into emotionally and really sort of get ourselves sort of involved in. But this week, because we're brand new to everyone listening, we wanted to clarify a little bit more about ourselves and talk about how we got into video games and what video games really sort of are to us. So, Mike, if you want to start us off, like what is your, going back to the early days, what is the start of video games for you?
Oh man, geez, this it's a weird one for me because I started with what I feel like were a bunch of consoles at once. Like I had a Sega, I had a NES, and had a ZX Spectrum. With what I remember as one of my earliest games I've ever played is Dizzy, which was like a 2D side-scrolling game on the ZX Spectrum. Where you'd play it as an egg, and then you kind of had to like collect items to use in like certain situations. So it's kind of like very puzzle based. I don't know if you've ever played it.
It's not one that rings to mind.
No, it's just this weird obscure game where you just play as like an egg, and you have a hat, and he has little red boots. But he's the greatest video game character ever made. But as well, like Sega, obviously Sonic, Mario are like huge influences, like gaming wise. Always been a fan of like, I think Mario over Sonic. I feel like you're either in one camp or the other. But what about you, man? What's your?
So I was a bit of a late bloomer with gaming, and I had a bit of a not a rocky start, but I definitely didn't get as much into it as some of my friends. we had some sort of device that I don't even remember what it was called, but it had some weird like Postman Pat-esque game on it. And again, it was something like a ZX Spectrum. It was a proper old school um, console that played this one game that was like a cassette tape, and it was this weird postal game, and I don't really remember it much, but I remember I had a cousin who had a Mega Drive, and I used to go to theirs quite a lot, and we used to play Sonic on that, and I also really got into Kid Chameleon when I was a kid, and then I kind of just went a little bit off games for quite a while, and it wasn't until the PS2 came out that I actually ended up getting a PS1, and funnily, it was because my granddad actually got a PlayStation before I did, and I was only about 10 at this time. My granddad got a PlayStation, and he used to play Tomb Raider, and where he was a lot older, there would be certain like timed jumps that he just couldn't get his head around. So he used to ask me to come and help him with them, and that's kind of where my love of gaming started to slowly develop. And it
Jumping
wasn't
for
until
granddad.
yeah,
Nice.
just jumping on Tomb Raider for granddad to help him out so he could get past the puzzle.
I love that, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was where it all started, and then I remember buying, because I didn't own a PlayStation at this point, and I remember buying Final Fantasy VII, getting my mum to get it for me, and then whenever I went to Granddad's house, he would let me play my Final Fantasy VII on his console.
Yeah.
So that was my thing that I would do, is go to Granddad's, help him with his Tomb Raider for a bit, and then when he went to bed, because I used to stay at my nan's, he'd be like, "Yeah, you can play your game now," and I'd spend a couple of hours playing Final Fantasy.
Oh, nice,
Um,
nice.
and that kind of like slowly got me into it, and then and then it kind of went from there. Picked up a PlayStation 2, got quite into that, and then from there I started purchasing. Obviously, I got to an age where I could purchase consoles myself. I had a PS3. We had an Xbox 360 in the house, although we've always been a Sony family.
It runs in the family.
We've always had, so we've had every Sony console that has come out. We've always had them. We had a 360, like we never got original Xbox, but I do remember stories. I remember like times where video gaming for me was really about that,
Yeah,
building friendships.
I think.
It was that. Go
Sorry,
ahead.
go on. I won't interrupt.
No, I was just gonna say it's about that social aspect, and particularly like I'm not afraid or ashamed to admit I wasn't the most popular kid in school. I wasn't
I
sort
don't
of one
believe
that
that
got on
at
with the
all.
crowds. Um, I was, yeah, I was one of the, in what most people would refer to as the loser group of kids. You know, the alternative group of kids that were off in the corner doing their own
The
thing.
misfits, yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. And but I remember being, at this point it must have been about 12, 13, and being invited around to a friend's sleepover, and there was like 8 or 9 of us, and he had two or three of them had bought Xboxes round, and we're all playing Halo together for the night. And it was like my first ever experience of bringing friends together and playing games together and enjoying games together. And it was just such a mad experience to have this like LAN party where and bearing in mind, obviously at that point we didn't have online gaming, we didn't have the capacity really to play games with each other, bar walking around your friend's house with your Pokemon on your Game Boy.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this idea of 8 of us sitting in a room playing the same game together was it just blew my mind. And I remember like just from there on, my love just slowly grew more and more and more, until it got to the point that, like I say, once I could afford things for myself, it's now out of control. Like, we've got a PS4, we've got a Switch, we've got an Xbox One. I've got set up in the spare room. I've got a PlayStation 2 with 2G controllers so that I can bust out old school Time Crisis.
Time
I've got an
Crisis, man.
Xbox 360, like you name it. I've got
Yeah.
an N64. I've got them all now because I felt like I'm such a late bloomer to it. But yeah, that social experience really really drew me into what gaming was about.
Yeah, that's it for like gaming. It's either really deep, rich stories that you can just enjoy on your own, or just making your own with like your friends and stuff like that. Like it's that social aspect that drew me to like streaming, and I think like now like we're obviously podcasting. I think it's kind of has that element to it where it's like it's a social thing. You know, you want to like share these like opinions and views and stuff like that. But I just want to go back to Halo that you mentioned. The story that I mentioned earlier was in Halo. So we were playing it, a team v team. I think it could have been a capture the flag, but I can't quite remember, or it could have just been a basic death match. But we had this is one of my most toxic stories as well, but I love it. We had a team, and on the opposite team was I don't know if I should mention the names or not, but I'm going to do it. We had a Mr. Pocket Evans and a Mrs. matching account name. So what I did was I killed the Mrs. and I teabagged her, as you do in Halo. It was the birth of the teabag. So I teabagged the Mrs. And then, because it was 360 days, messaged Mr. Pocket Evans saying, I just teabagged your wife. And then the entire team just gunned for me, annihilated me, and we also coined the phrase the team bag, because their entire team and some of the meaner team members on my team just started teabagging me.
I mean, to be fair, it sounds like you deserved it.
I fully did. It was so toxic, but it was the thing that was so good about like the 360 days. And I mean, like, I've grown up with pretty much every generation of console and every competing console in those generations. But the 360 was like almost like the heyday for me, gaming wise. Just because of that social aspect where you'd like you'd be able to like message people and you'd get like hate mail and stuff like that, and it just made like when you were going like playing COD was such a highlight for gaming for me, because it was just like so fun destroying people and ruining the day, and then also getting hate mail back off them being like there was a friend of mine just messaged me something. He got hate mail recently on the newer COD. He just opened it and just said tramp.
Oh.
But I just love that, like you said, it's just all about social for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I kind of agree and disagree with you on that. Like, there was when the consoles first went to being online, so the Xbox 360 and the PS3's sort of first endeavor into the online world, it was a very different world to online to what it is now. And I'm glad we've moved away from it, because like you say, there was a lot of toxicity.
Oh yeah.
And it was almost a point of, just because you've got free speech on video games across these like networks where you can talk to people that you've never spoken to before, probably doesn't mean you should be allowed to, because some of you are saying stuff that definitely shouldn't be appropriate. But you, like you say, you did have some great times, and there's some great memories of playing like the first Call of Duties online, playing Modern Warfare, and like people would get so riled up and so into it.
Yeah.
But I remember some of the like Call of Duty lobbies that were just absolutely atrocious with swearing and horrific racism and unnecessary comments.
Yeah, I mean,
And
that's taking it too
sort of
far,
stuff,
isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly, and that sort of stuff, like, it's so nice that on a whole, with regards to streaming and with regards to gaming, and generally when you go into an open lobby now, everyone is very pleasant, and I've rarely gone into a lobby where somebody is unpleasant. And if anything, I go into lobbies more now where they want to teach you how to play the game, and they want to sort of help you understand the game, as opposed to just putting you down for not being as good as them. But those days, like you say, they did birth that first element of social aspect of gaming, and that idea of you can make friends over this, you can get to know people over this, and you can build really strong friendships over this without ever meeting that person. And like, I mean, you look at me and you, for example, we've never met in person. For all I know, you're catfishing and your name's Barbara. Right?
Yeah, damn.
You could be anyone.
Somebody
for all
call
I know,
Neve.
like- exactly. Like I could drive up to find you and find out that you're a 42-year-old lady named Barbara who's living with her cats.
It'd be funny if I was. I wish I was.
I found it out now. It's not a secret anymore. But yeah, just the fact that you can develop these friendships online just solely through the love of a certain type of game, or just through teaching each other. And it's really beautiful recently that we've seen so many people sort of go down that route of, if you're struggling on a game. I've had so many people like chatting to me on a game and being like, oh mate, look, you need to do this and this, and just teaching me how to play the game better, instead of just making me feel like a piece of shit because I don't know how to play it as well as they do.
You know what we need to talk about right now, just on the back of that?
What's that?
It's the power of Stambush.
I mean, Stambush, and I was holding this for another episode, so I won't go into too much detail because we're probably going to cover this again in a future episode.
I mean, the power of Stambush will forever be
the power of Stambush,
a feature of TripleXP Podcast.
Stambush is one of the greatest music artists of all time. If you weren't aware of that, you are now. He created some of the most incredible songs for the original, and we're not talking live action, the original animated Transformers movie.
Yes.
And I was having a particularly bad time on the Star Wars Fallen Order game. Particularly bad time. I died something like 20 times the same boss, and I was getting extremely angry. And I was 100% at a point of taking the disc out, sending it back, and never completing that game.
You were almost to tears.
Oh, I was close to tears. I was very close to tears.
There was fists bitten and legs punched.
Yeah, and I think I literally said, I'm calling it here, guys. I can't do this anymore. And Mike and our other friend Hazy stepped up and said, no, do it one more time, but this time play Stambush, because they know that Stambush really fucking hits me in the heart. It really gets me pumped. Play Stambush.
We believe.
And I did it straight away. The power of Stambush got me through. But it was an incredible moment.
It was so good. It's fully converted me into just being like a Stambush believer, and anything is possible, and to never surrender.
Stambush is never surrender. Exactly that. Exactly. The greatest words that can come out of a musician: never surrender, never give up. But moving away from Stambush, because like I say, we will 100% be readdressing Stambush in future episodes.
Oh yeah.
We know
every episode.
Almost every. I mean, if we could pay him to do our theme tune forever, I would.
Yeah.
I would pay him. If I could get him on the show, I would get him on the podcast.
We should do it. We should do it. We should tweet. We should tweet him.
Just tweet him every day for the next year until he gives in.
Yeah. Never surrender.
That or we get a harassment case. One of the two.
Yeah.
But so we know where we both started from with gaming. We know where we came from and how we got to where we are with gaming. But we don't know where we are with gaming. So as a gamer, what type of gamer are you? What sort of games do you head towards? What is your gaming sort of circle?
It's a tough one, man, because you always hear that like term, especially on Twitch, where it's like, I'm a variety streamer, where it's like it means nothing much, but I literally play anything and everything. And yeah, I can be playing like, I call it gaming ADHD, where I'll literally buy a game because it's shiny and new or it's on sale, and I'll play it for an hour, and then I'll leave it, and then I'll pick another game up, and I'll just keep going and going and going. But lately I've been on a real, I call it like kind of retro, where it's like 18-bit graphics, but it's all like a modern style, sort of like The Messenger, Shovel Knight, loads of games like that. I've just been like really, really into them, especially the soundtracks. But yeah, like what about yourself, Shane?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much the same. Like you say, like use that variety gamer sort of that that title. For me, games have to have one of two things. There is two pillars to my gaming. Either it needs to have a solid story that I can really get into. So I play a lot of single player games that have a really solid story that I can really sort of relate to or get into or be interested in. Or it's got to have that solid social aspect.
Yeah,
If
it's
it
kind of
doesn't
what
have
I was
either
saying
of
earlier.
those, exactly, if it doesn't have either of those, if it's a sort of middle ground game, and that's where I think like Avengers is falling short for me, because the story isn't quite there, the social aspect isn't quite there. It's a weird middle ground one. Then it's like, I can't really be asked. But if it's got one of those two aspects, I'm going to really enjoy it. There are a few outliers though. I'm not saying that I won't play games outside of those. For example, Tony Hawk's. I wouldn't say it's got a solid story, nor does it have a solid social experience. That's an
you were
outlier.
saying that about like the spunk horse thing before, like
Yeah.
that's all social, isn't it? Like,
I mean, it would be if COVID would allow me to let everyone in my house, but
yeah, true.
there is that as well. But that's a separate issue altogether. But no, like you say, I mean, I'm like you. I'm very much for the games, and whether it be whatever the game it is, I want to try it. I want to try every game I can. I want to experience as many games as possible, because I think every game has something to offer. And it's okay to not like a game. And I think that's an important thing to come away. Like, we don't all have to like the same games. And I know I absolutely love Persona 5. I know that we've had discussions with you, and you're a bit like, not really for me.
Yeah, it's just because
it's
it's
fucking weird.
super heavy, like text, and I like a nice cutscene. Like, sit back and eat my quavers or whatever. I watch my cutscene, and then I like some solid gameplay. But it just I don't. But going back to like the gaming ADHD thing, where it's just like I'll like it what I've played, but I'll just get distracted by something new, something shiny, something different
Same.
constantly, and I struggle to really focus down on a single game, especially if it's a large game like 90 hours plus.
Well, and that's the
Witcher
other
being a
thing,
prime
and
example.
exactly, and that's the other thing, and I won't go into too much detail on this today, because again, I'm pretty sure we're going to cover this in a future episode. But there's a big issue of games being at some point too big and not as focused as they could be.
Yeah,
For example, for me recently, Ghost of Tsushima suffered from that problem, in that I really enjoyed the story and I played through it, but I had very little to no interest in doing all the side stuff.
yeah.
Because
Once the main core story was done, I was really putting it off for ages, trying to mop up the side stuff first. But then once I was like, right, I'll just finish the story. Finished it, and I was like, oh, I don't want to do this now. I don't want to finish this
exactly.
game. Like, I don't want to play it anymore.
It just doesn't feel as focused enough. It just feels like there's stuff just filled for the sake of stuff being filled.
Yeah.
And that does, I agree with you, that does
But
make it very difficult.
Saying that, I think the story in that was so good, so well done.
Oh, absolutely incredible game, absolutely incredible. Well, I think we should probably look at wrapping it up now, because we're pushing
an hour and a half, so
hour and a half, and we were aiming to only be an hour long today.
First
Obviously,
episode, so there's a bit of bonus time for you there.
Exactly. You've got to learn a little bit about us, as to what we are, like who we are as gamers, like what we play, where we came from, sort of why we're here, and we got to have a good discussion about the PS5. And I will blame the PS5 for why we've extended this episode for half an hour, because there's an unnecessary amount of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got to discuss the new consoles, and I think on the whole we've had a pretty solid first episode.
Yeah, man, I've had a nice time.
Yeah, it's been good, and hopefully this is the start of something beautiful for us.
Yeah,
but we should go ahead.
I was just say it's been emotional, and
it definitely has, and especially with the amount of alcohol that I've drunk. But
yeah, we're getting there.
We should probably wrap it up with the usual stuff. So, firstly, as we stated at the beginning of the show, we will have an episode of the podcast that will be around the hour mark, give or take, as you've learned today, every Monday. And we will also have a blog post that has been written up by one of our TripleXP team members, Ryan, which will go live every Friday. And you can find all of our stuff in one simple place, It's all accessible via Twitter, which is at TripleXP Podcast. Anything else that you want to say, Mike?
Just that you can find a link tree there to all of the other socials. We have Instagram, YouTube, and Podbean, and obviously the core website blog. Yeah, but it's all you can find it all on Twitter. Everyone uses Twitter, right?
Yeah, everyone uses Twitter. You get to see our ugly mugs, the rest of the team. And there's lots of information there for you to check out. So
yeah, I'm really excited for everyone to actually meet the team as well, and
me too.
Get everyone on the podcast. Like, it's gonna be a good time.
It is indeed. So yeah, we're gonna wrap out there, and we look forward to you listening to our lovely voices again in a week's time.
Catch you next Monday.
Bye.
Bye.
TripleXP. TripleXP.